What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this milestone episode 65 of Caught in Conversation. And here I am once again in a hotel room with a very shitty setup, but the last one didn't turn out too bad, so hopefully I can salvage this one as well. I'm here with a very special guest again, once again back on the podcast for I don't even know how many times now. It's the one and only, it's Mrs. Crossfire.
Hello, everyone, for like the gazillion time.
We're in room 609. So close. So close. I'm just a man-child. I'm going to get straight into the song and match of the week because I almost forgot while I was recording with Meltino the other day, and then I got the match of the week wrong because we changed our minds and I didn't update my notes. But the song of the week this week is one of Citizen Soldier's new songs, of course. There's like 4 or 5 now that I'm behind because I was trying to stray away from them here and there in a couple of previous episodes. But the song of the week is Words That Don't Exist by Citizen Soldier. There is a trigger warning on this one. There's a bit of mention about self-harm and all that stuff. So if that triggers you, stay away. But as I always say on the show, you know, your feelings are valid. It's okay to not be okay. It's not weak to speak, yada, 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 etc., etc. And the match of the week this week is going to blend us straight into what you and I have actually been talking about behind closed doors, Mrs. Crossfire, and that is Edge versus Damian Priest from this past week's episode of Raw on August 22nd, 2022, depending on whenever you're listening to this. First and foremost, the finish comes with Edge hitting a fucking Canadian destroyer. I don't think... I was sitting there, I was sitting there thinking to myself literally last night as we recorded this on Thursday morning, because I posted an Instagram reel of it with 6 or 7 different camera angles of it. I'm like, if you had told me in like 2006 when Edge was a heel slapping John Cena's dad in the face, that in 2022, so what's that? That's, I mean, is that 18 years later?
Yeah, I think about 18. I don't know.
I'm going to say 18 if the math's wrong, whatever. I'm currently sipping on a pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks because I'm an extra bitch or I'm a basic bitch, depending on how you look at it. Mrs. Crossfire has a caramel...
Macchiato.
Caramel frap wrap.
With an extra pump of vanilla, the caramel, and then the caramel drizzle because I'm extra.
I'm never going to not make the Kevin Hart reference, but I'm sitting here, whatever. Who would have thought in 2006 that you'd be seeing Edge, who at this point has come back from not just a career-threatening injury, but a life-threatening neck injury, and then he's hitting Canadian destroyers on a dude that's what, 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", like. And Edge is 6'4", 6'5" in his own right. I think he's 6'4" because he jokes that he lost an inch when he had the neck surgery. But like, what? How did, like, everyone said that? Oh, it's not going to change overnight with Triple H in charge. He's been in charge for almost a month now.
Yeah, about 4 weeks.
There has not been a. Well, we still haven't watched NXT. I've been catching up on the highlights, and that does look a lot better. What's his name? Marcel Bartel. Was it Marcel Bartel? No, Fabian Eichner was the ball one, right?
Yeah. Fabian Eichner.
My bad. Marcel Bartel is now Ludwig Kaiser, but Eichner has the new gimmick where he's Giovanni, I think, Giovanni Vinci, and he's doing basically like an Italian playboy, just rich prick kind of thing, but somehow he's a babyface now. I guess it's just because he's just doing all the springboards and shit that he didn't do before that, but I watched the highlights and I showed you of him versus Carmelo, and the product's great. So I've been keeping up with the weekly television now. Of course, this past week we had the brief reunion of Index, and I was really happy. But now Dexter has been arrested and he left a note saying goodbye for now. So I think the Index story is, again, for now, it's what it said in the actual note has been finally wrapped up. It has a conclusion, which makes a lot of people, including myself and Mrs. Crossfire, happy because they literally got married on TV and then Dexter was fucking released by budget cuts, brother.
Yeah, that annoyed the hell out of me.
But I feel like, the match of the week blends in because you and I have just been talking about I'm ranting all over the place and I'm repeating myself, but that's what I always do on this podcast. And I'm still half asleep. I've had like 3 hours sleep all up, and it was very broken because I napped for an hour last night, and then I decided to work on a top secret Crossfire project. And Mrs. Crossfire woke up at like 6 a.m. and she's like, "What are you doing?" Working. What are you doing, Carl? What are you doing? Carl, you are a motherfucker. Please don't sue me talking shop. Anyway, like, just the product. Since day one, I feel. Like, since SummerSlam. Like, SummerSlam was the first, because I think Raw and most of that episode of SmackDown when Triple H first took over was pretty much already set in stone from Vince. Triple H just kind of helped with the flow of things, I think. But since SummerSlam, and then definitely the Raw after SummerSlam, which I said to you and you agreed that in a lot of ways it was almost going to be kind of like a Raw after Mania feel. And it actually was. And then now you fast forward and every week it just gets better and better and better. I believe it was last week we had that just fantastic promo by Drew and KO. I did touch on that briefly in last week's episode. I'm pretty sure I put it in the cut. I can't remember. If I didn't, well, there you go. If I did, you're hearing it again. But they had that fantastic promo. They had that fantastic match. And then this week's Raw, and it's something that you actually mentioned that you wanted to bring up, like KO was kind of going back to the prize fighter roots, which does work best as a heel, I do agree. But at this point, he's very much a tweener, and he's definitely working it. I feel like he's going for a full babyface turn again, or at least that's what it seemed. Maybe he's kind of going the anti-hero, similar to Stone Cold Steve Austin, which I guess is appropriate given how this year's Mania went. And, he's been using the stunner, etc. Like, you don't want to be the next someone. You want to be first you. But if you're going to compare him to someone, Kevin Owens, the neckbeards will scoff and pick, he's not on Stone Cold's level. If anyone's going to get close to that level at this point, it's KO.
Yeah, for sure.
But like this past week, he comes out, he's wearing a newer version of his old NXT shirt because it used to say Fight Owens Fight, but he's combined it with his Just Keep Fighting gimmick. But then he's got the whole NXT Titantron back and everything. He pinned Chad Gable with the pop-up powerbomb. He's been teasing the apron powerbomb. He actually hit it on Elias last week as we record this, but we're just marking out. Like, I've never, like, when we first met, like, you were more of a casual fan, and we've talked about that on the pod, and I apologize. This coffee's bringing up all this kind of yucky stuff, yummy. But, like, we've been talking about how you were a casual fan, and now all of a sudden, like, you meet me, and you really get invested, and there's some parts of the business that you could probably tell better than I could, just because you've got a good mind for psychology and stuff like that. But Triple H he's reunited my passion. Yeah, I think people are still crying placebo effect and whatever, Mandela effect, call it what you want, it's the same thing. But the product is,
it's like, from a creative standpoint, it's just looking at it, the transitions of how everything flows and moves now. It's not like, it's just like there's little things happening in the background, and it's like little Easter eggs, and it just gives me like early, like back to like 90s, maybe early 2000s vibes. I'm just vibing it. Like, I'm all for it, man.
The funny thing is, right, we always say, and people are going to give me hate for this, but Vince Russo, he's had a lot of great ideas. He's had even more shitty ideas, but he talks about when AEW first started, people asked him, hey, if they offered you a job, would you take it? And he's like, honestly, I would, because at the end of the day, we're professional wrestling fans. It's professional wrestling, sports entertainment. I've had that argument many, many times on the podcast. I'll probably continue to do so. I think it's the same fucking thing. But at the end of the day, it's not a wrestling show because it's live, it's on TV. Therefore, it is a TV show. So you have to cater almost to the casual fans, because the hardcore fans, as much as they bitch and moan that this guy isn't getting pushed and that guy was buried and blah, 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 whatever, you've still got to make it, a TV presentation. And the weird thing is, it's gone back to almost like not quite as grungy as the 90s, but it's gone back to that similar feel. And as you pointed out, especially the black and gold NXT, which obviously Triple H had his hands all over that. So obviously he's just doing it now with a bigger setup, with a bigger budget. But the funny thing is, they've made it more grungy in a way, but they're actually shooting it more like a TV show.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we just finished watching season 2 of Only Murders in the Building, right? And one scene blends straight into the next. You got someone being interviewed, and then it will cut to someone who just so happens by pure coincidence to be standing like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
But it's like a TV show, right? You're going down a hall, you turn a corner, oh, look, here's this person, wave at the camera. Like, it's so grungy, but it also makes so much sense. It is a live wrestling spectacle, but Triple H, I feel, is presenting it more as a solid TV show.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like maybe this will be like too outlandish of a comparison, but you and I, we were really loving Lucha Underground before it fucking ran out of its rights. Tubi no longer has it, so hopefully somewhere else can get it soon enough, because we were only halfway through the first season. But look at the way that it's shot, right? It's telenovela almost. So it's not it's way more. It's beyond what WWE and even to an extent what AEW and especially Impact. Impact's really good at it as well. Like, it's, hey, look, here's the wrestling, but outside that, it's a TV show. Like, these are the characters that are doing this, that, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But it's just it's flowing so much better. The wrestling portion has got better, but it's not over the top like it is weekly on AEW, which, again, I'm going to copy. I'm sorry, you can like what you like. I'm still a fan of AEW. I'm still going to buy the All Out pay-per-view in a couple of weeks. I just feel from a TV aspect, it's just insane how much it has increased. And if NXT keeps going that way, and hopefully it will with Sean, and the big news that you and I were both very sad about, which I briefly touched on, that was basically the whole point of last week's episode, was I covered the news of NXT Europe. Like, if they can even have a quarter of what they're doing on the main roster there, it's going to be something special.
Yeah, well, for me, I feel like it's gotten to the point where it's like Raw and SmackDown have become like NXT Gold, but on roids. Like, it's so good.
It's just
yeah. Like, it's just, he said it in some other interview or something. We said, oh, that aged well, where he said there's room for improvement. Yeah, and he's applying that.
And it's very topical to what I talked about, because I don't know, honestly, it could be a work. Tony Khan has publicly acknowledged it, so maybe it is a work, but then Tony Khan has also said some pretty stupid shit publicly for a man that's meant to be in charge of a wrestling company, but that's neither here nor there. But there's all the rumors of the CM Punk having heat with Adam Page and blah-de-blah. He called him out live on air, which was unscripted, and Adam Page was literally just allegedly in catering, minding his own business. And if that is the case, then dick move from CM Punk. But they're showing all these promos back and forth from when it was CM Punk versus The Authority, and Triple H was The Authority, and everything he's saying in those promos, like, I remember, and maybe I'm a little bit hypocritical. This was just before, well, I wouldn't say just before, it was about 2011, so it was about 8 years before I met you, but you were in and out of wrestling, like, you were familiar with your John Cena's, and Roman Reigns had come along, and Becky Lynch, like the mainstream names, because they pop up, because WWE is just a fucking spectacle. But I remember being such a huge fan of CM Punk. I still am a fan of CM Punk. Like, his in-ring's still great. He's just not as good as he seems to think he is. But, like, I remember being a fan of Punk and being like, he's the voice of the voiceless. He's the best in the world. He's this, that, whatever fucking catchphrase he's using this week. And just being so behind everything he was doing. And then you look at it in hindsight, 11 years later, so over a decade later, you look at the Triple H side of things, and you look at it and you're just like, wow, like, I still, like, the promos that Punk were cutting for as a wrestling promo was still fantastic. But you look at everything that Triple H is saying, and it's like, no, you can tell that, okay, he had the reign of terror where he was squashing everyone and he was champion for like a year, or seemingly, which is funny because no one has more losses at WrestleMania than Triple H, so go figure. Yeah, he buries everyone with that golden shovel. Shut the fuck up. You watch those promos back and look at everything he's doing now.
He really believes of what he's saying. Like.
And there was another one, and it's the one that I thought you were going to bring up, but the one I thought you were going to bring up was I was scrolling through TikTok, and someone posted up the 2015 interview with Stone Cold, and Kevin Dunn was trying to kick him off the air, and Triple H is like, who the hell does he think he is?
I got more pull than him, and it's like, What?
I still
Sure.
feel like when, the timing is right, like we're only a month in, I still feel like give it a couple of months and I feel like Kevin Dunn will be on.
Yeah.
I hope for his sake he saved his money because I don't know the dude personally, but you never want to see anyone lose their job. But just from all the rumors and, stuff that has come out that has been confirmed by people backstage, mind you, like your Jim Rosses and even Bruce Pritchard, who works for the company, has kind of made offshoot comments here and there on his podcast. And look, we got rid of Johnny Ace. Fuck that guy. All I'm saying is I wouldn't miss if we got rid of Kevin Dunn. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. But I don't even know if we've made a point. You just said, "Hey, let's hit record." We're sitting here
Yeah.
in the hotel
Had a
room.
bit of
I'm
shoot.
just trying to get some content out so we don't miss a week. We're going to see the Black Phone later, and we're probably going to come back and do a little mini review. I don't have my soundboard with me, so I can't do the actual transition effect. I could go in and rip it from one of the other episodes, but that's too much effort. So I'll just probably be like intermission, do 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 do, and then we'll just be back. But how good right now? And people are going to call us marks and this that, but Mrs. Crossfire, you wanted to talk about yourself, like how good the WWE product is, and I feel like we've established that's what we're talking about. That's pretty much all we're going to talk about here. But like, just how fucking good is it right now?
Yeah, I'm marking out. I'm marking out, man. It's giving me nostalgia days from when I was younger and I was watching it more regularly. It's just like it's all coming back, and it's great. I'm loving it.
That is a pumpkin spice latte. It's very cinnamony. I want to try your macchiato too when you finally pull your little fancy plastic stick out of it.
Yeah.
But like, guys specifically, like we're heading into Clash at the Castle next week as I record this. Obviously, we won't be able to watch it because it's in the UK. It's airing live at 3 a.m. You'll have to go to work at like 9 a.m., I believe, that same day. So I'm going to try to stay off social media so that we can watch it when we come back, when you come back home and then, do like a, not review, but just talk about the highlights and pros and cons. And because I was going to do a predictions video, but I'd have to put it out a day before. And I just couldn't be bothered because I've been doing that for a lot of them. And, with Triple H in charge, everything's changing. There's been a lot of injuries, some real, some kayfabe. I don't know what's what, but and everything could change. But you specifically said that you wanted to talk, and this is why I love you so damn much as my wife, put that out in the podcast, but you mentioned guys like Seth, who, although he has a fantastic gimmick right now, he lost a little bit of momentum. Let's face it, he's one of Hunter's boys, one of Paul's boys, whatever you want to call him his real name, work name, I don't give a fuck. He's never going to hear this. But guys like Seth getting momentum back, guys like KO getting momentum back, and it clearly has already happened because he's basically, as you said, you put it best, right? It's I said it's basically NXT Gold, but upscaled. You said it's NXT Black and Gold on steroids, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Owens has almost done that because of the momentum that he had, and even through the Elias Ezekiel storyline, people have complained again. It's wrestling. It's a TV show. It's hokey.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but that's allowed him to stay relevant. And now I feel like that was the perfect foil to push him back because it's like he's sick of the jokes. He's sick of the fun and games. He's sick of the this, that, whatever. And then what's it going to be like when Cody Rhodes returns from injury?
Yeah.
Now, because now I'm not saying that, again, as I said, I don't think Triple H has truly ever buried anyone. He has a fantastic mind for this business, and he has shown that over and over again. And that's what someone like CM Punk back in 2011 should have been like, I'll trust you on this. And the blow-off probably would have been fucking fantastic for Punk, and his stock probably would have went up even further. But look, that's neither here nor there, right? They were feuding from like 2011 to 2014 until he went, fuck this. And look, that's his business. He left, whatever. I'm still a fan of Punk. His attitude, people are saying it sets up for a heel turn. Maybe he's working us all. Maybe he is, but he seemed to be there from the beginning. But looking at what Triple H has done, guys like Cody Rhodes, where is Cody Rhodes going to go? Like, I'm not saying that Triple H is going to push him down because of the throne thing, because Triple H, as a businessman, as a wrestling mind, probably saw the genius behind that, right? But I had a thought while you were in the shower this morning, and this is probably not going to happen. Like, they're probably still going to have Cody return, win the Rumble. It's slightly predictable, but at the end of the day, when you've been watching wrestling for so long, predictable isn't necessarily a bad thing, although the unpredictability of Edge hitting the Canadian Destroyer, as I said just before, was fucking insane. It was awesome. But a guy like Cody Rhodes coming in winning the Rumble would be great. But I literally I don't even know what made me think of it. I was just getting set up as you were getting ready, and I'm like, what if, right? You still get Rock versus Roman on night 2. But what if on night 1, everyone expects it to be Cody versus Seth, but they had a string of matches, all which was great, especially that Hell in a Cell match with how banged up and injured and disgusting that fucking Torn Peck was. But what if this whole thing of Kevin Owens, they're talking about splitting the titles up, right? Give me, and it doesn't have to necessarily be for the title, but with Triple H in charge and production and Shawn and Road Dogg and everyone, just they're still hands-on, like they're still producing matches to an extent, like, hey, this is where we want to go, but they're like, you guys fill in the blanks. Like, give me Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania. Because, like, Kevin Owens coming off the back, he faced, and I still can't believe all these months later that I say this, Kevin Owens faced Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. I still can't believe, and KO said himself, right, in an interview, where do you go from that?
Exactly.
And even from him, especially he said from him as a fan, he could win fucking 100 world titles. He could smash all the records out of the park. He wrestled his hero. He took the Stone Cold Stunner at Wrestle fucking Mania, of all things, in Texas. How do you beat that? Okay, you're going to separate the titles? Have KO somehow, like you can have Drew or Theory or Karrion Kross or whatever, take the WWE title off Roman at some point. Have KO win it, say, at the Rumble, right? And that way, at least he gets one title defense in at whatever pay-per-view or premium love events between that. But Cody Rhodes wins the Rumble, challenges Kevin Owens. That, to me, like, again, it's just a random fantasy booking, but stuff like that. You have Seth, as I said. But I'm ranting. I don't know if I'm making points, but you and I were just like, how good is it right now? Like,
it's just so good. I'm just digging it.
Is there anyone in particular on the roster that you feel like now with Triple H in charge could possibly get that extra oomph? Because even look at what they've done with Ciampa. Like that match with Ciampa and Lashley was fantastic. They've already raised the United States Championship. Gunther and Shinsuke for the IC Championship. They've already raised the Intercontinental Championship, and especially with Roman seemingly being a part-time champion, even if they do break up the titles, they're trying to go back to the brand split. There's rumors that, and they've released the poster for Survivor Series, that they're not going to do a draft now until after next year's Mania, so they're trying to hone it back into everyone. And Drew actually mentioned it on a promo on Raw. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I think it might have even been the week before KO came out, where I'm a SmackDown guy, and it's like, I love that it's tongue-in-cheek and he's brought attention to that. Why am I on Raw? Like, it's just interesting but I kind of just rattled away from the question there, but like, who do you see benefiting with Roman, but especially on SmackDown, with Roman potentially being a part-time champion and seemingly elevating the IC title, but just in general, like who, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, like who do you see moving up and who do you want to see move up?
We'll see.
In terms of like their stock, not actually from one brand to the other. Should have worded that better, my bad.
Well, I was just like, I don't know, like who I like see moving up as such, or it's just mainly like, let's see, like, I don't know if you've mentioned this or not yet. I don't think we've mentioned it yet, but obviously Johnny. Like, come on, Johnny Gargano. Like, dude.
Well, I was trying to kind of talk about this week's Raw, but as I always do, little things hit me here and there, and I'm ADHD, and I'm currently drinking a latte, so it doesn't help. But that return for Gargano. Now, you could have done it a couple of weeks ago in Cleveland, but the way they did it here, it was literally, again, and it's the transitions. I can't even remember what was before that, and I feel terrible for whoever it was, because my bad. But it went from a match or a brawl or something, and all of a sudden it's just like, okay, the commentators are like, da-da-da-da, coming up, we've got this, this, and this. And all of a sudden, and I popped for this because I said to you, the one thing I wanted when Johnny comes back is he has to have Rebel Heart. And he had it in his last couple of days in NXT, so I'm like, I really hope he still has it. But you're just chilling, commentators are like, moving it along. His music hits, and everyone's kind of like, no, like, the music sounds familiar, but let's face it, there was a lot of people that didn't watch NXT, so they weren't super familiar. But when his name popped up on the screen and it clicked with everyone, it was like, oh shit. And then He super kicks Austin Theory after that hilarious little reunion almost.
Wait, wasn't it? Oh, were they before he come out? I was like, wasn't it fucking when Miz got kidnapped from Loomis? Or was that further in the show?
I honestly can't remember because it all ties in together in a weird way.
I don't know, because when I think of that, I'm just like, Miz is going to get the shits because Ciampa kept wrestling and didn't protect him. Like, they're going to split up and then I'm going to get DIY. That's all I want. DIY.
I'm so torn because I even said this to you the first week that Triple H took over.
Yeah.
Right? When it was building up to SummerSlam, I'm like, Gargano's going to come back and he's going to reunite with Ciampa because Ciampa himself said he wants to wind down.
Yeah.
So put him in a tag to protect him, right? But I've gotten this theory, pardon the pun, in my head where the way reunites, where it's everyone, it's Candice, it's Johnny, it's Dexter, it's Indy, it's Austin, and they turn heel to help him cash in. And now it's probably not going to happen, but I just feel like for me, being a little mark would be great. And it makes it more believable for the theory because everyone's saying, oh, he's not believable, he's too small. And I thought we were well beyond those years, but apparently not.
Yeah.
But I suppose after the years of having Roman and Brock on top, we've almost gone back to that, Diesel, Undertaker, Hulk Hogan type thing where they're massive dudes. But I feel like I did that. But then even my mate Sean in Canada, he's like, I had a dream that Gargano beat Theory for the briefcase. And people have even been fantasy booking. They've been making fan graphics for that match literally as soon as next week at Clash in the Castle. And I'm like, that'd be dope, but let's not just fucking blow our wad straight away, right? But
I could see Triple H doing that though. Like I could see it because it's kind of like it's expected, but it's unexpected at the same time. But then I don't know. Like you said before, he could go. Johnny might end up becoming heel and helping Theory, but in saying that, like Theory just super kicked him. So where does that lead? Or is that trying to like deter us because this is what Triple H is doing? Is fucking with our minds.
It works brilliantly though because the Money in the Bank, he's got up until Money in the Bank next year, which when was Money in the Bank? June or July this year? I think it was July, wasn't it?
I think it was
Or was it June?
Oh, it might have been June.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but like in theory, and again, that's not a pun, that's just the word that I use. In theory, he's got a whole year in kayfabe to cash in, right? So depending on how long Ciampa has left as an active competitor before he moves into like his managerial role or his backstage role or whatever, give me the DIY reunion.
Yeah.
Fucking build it up, and then have Johnny turn heel next year. Like, there's so many avenues you could go, but Hit Row's back, Johnny's back, Dakota's back, Karrion Kross is back. My only worry is, and someone didn't, I'll let you finish your point in just a second, but someone brought this up. Yeah. They're like, oh, everyone's hypocritical because AEW signs people and they're signing too much, but Triple H brings people back and it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, but, and I'll admit it is double standards to a point, but you can see where it's coming from because these people were, in a lot of ways, wrongfully terminated.
Yeah, they were.
So he's trying to right his wrongs, but I do hope that he doesn't bring back everyone because there's rumors that now Jonah's still signed to New Japan for a couple of years. Yeah. There's been, again, it's rumors, you can call it reports because I think Fightful and stuff we've talked about as well. Yeah. Triple H has been vocal backstage. He wants Jonah.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, Jonah was one of his boys, wasn't he? Like,
100%. But then at the same time, as a fan of Jonah, like, we haven't been watching New Japan for a while, but we've checked out the couple of highlights here and there of the G1. The only person in the entire G1 for this entire tournament to pin Okada. Yeah. Like, it's very rare that Okada loses as it is because he's very much New Japan's John Cena or Roman Reigns in a lot of ways, which I also find hilarious and hypocritical because lol, Okada wins, but Roman Reigns wins, this is boring, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, not only did Okada lose to Jonah, it was in the G1 and the only person to do so, which is New Japan's biggest tournament since fucking however many years ago at this point. Like, New Japan is, almost as old as WWE in a lot of ways. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to steal a sip of your macchiato while you finish the point that I cut you off from.
No, that's all right. So pretty much you were just saying pretty much what I wanted to say anyway. It was just mainly like, it was kind of cool like that he is bringing people back because I feel like they were talents that were detrimental to NXT, like Dakota and those guys. Like, I just felt like they really helped excel the good black and gold brand as such.
Yeah, well, I said Dakota specifically. She was one of the pillars almost of
Yeah.
the NXT women's division.
Yeah, and it kind of like healed me in a way because it got to the point where I'd just look at highlights. I was losing my passion for wrestling as such. Like, it was dying down, and it's kind of like, well, mainly for WWE. I was wanting to watch Impact and everything else, but it was like, it's dying down. I'm sick of it. Everyone's getting released that I'm getting attached to. I'm getting attached to these characters. They're building them. They're fantastic. They're talented. Oh, released.
You know,
Like, what the fuck?
I went through a phase where I wasn't even watching highlights, and neither were you. I was literally just reading the results, and you're just asking me, like, okay, who won? What's the story going on? Like, just so we could keep up to an extent. But it's just refreshing, and I understand. Like, we're never going to get back to where we were in the 90s with the Monday Night Raws, the Monday Night Wars rather, between WWF Monday Night Raw and WCW Monday Night Nitro. I mean, we've got DVR and all that, fancy shit anyway, so people can record and watch it as they do. And as even us, we can't watch live at the moment with the subscription that we have, but we can watch almost instantly on demand on a good day when it goes straight up. So it's like now I'm actively used to be like, oh, it's just Raw, we will just follow it on social media and then watch up. But now it's getting to the point where I'm actually getting mad that I'm seeing spoilers.
Yeah, I'm wanting to see the little things that are happening.
Obviously, you and I, we there was no way we were avoiding the spoilers for this week's Raw because we were traveling. So what do you do when you actually have reception on that long ass train trip? But you check Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever fucking social media you use these days. I was gonna make a dating. I was gonna make a dating app joke like Tinder or Bumble, but that doesn't really apply to us. But hey, if you
Bieber on MySpace.
But hey, maybe you've got a sugar daddy that likes wrestling. I don't know. But seeing that, we were literally sitting at the train station, there was about 5 minutes before the train got there, and I've literally just gone, holy shit! And you're like, did you forget something? Which, fun fact, I did actually forget my laptop. So shout out to my mother-in-law if she, for some reason, ever listens to this, for bringing my laptop to me so I could actually do this podcast. And we had shows to watch on that long ass trip that I downloaded, but. I'm like, holy shit. And you're like, what? I'm like, Johnny Gargano. And you're like, what? I literally just showed you the photo of him standing on the entranceway. And it was just like...
I was kind of like, oh, why did you show me? I wanted to be freaking shocked. But at the same time, I was like...
Literally getting goosebumps just from looking at a photo.
Yeah.
And maybe it's we're subjective because we're fans. And we talk about how we fall out because we were invested in those characters. To an extent, that's subjective because they're our guys. It's the same as people that are anti-Roman or anti-Brock or anti-whoever. It's okay, they don't like that guy. It works the same. But because we like that guy, maybe we're a bit more biased. But just looking at it for us, this is all just our subjective opinions. Literally, I had goosebumps looking at that photo. It was just a picture of a man standing on the stage with this big shit-eating grin on his face.
Yeah.
And you could tell that it was genuine. And, he's got to spend time with his little boy. He's 6 months old now. He talked about his baby boy in the promo. Candace posted that photo on Instagram that legit almost made me tear up because I might seem like a big tough man, but I get caught up in my feelings, and professional wrestling, unfortunately, is one of the main things that brings out those feelings. But
Kayfabe, brother.
Kayfabe, brother.
But he's a big softie.
I just that now I'm not going to say it's on the same scale, right? But look at Edge's return in the Rumble in 2020, right? And then you look at Johnny Gargano. Obviously, two very different situations, two very different reactions. But still, and I'd argue this point, if anyone wants to argue with me, come at me, but I'd argue it's almost the exact same outcome to a T.
Yeah.
Because even... You look like you're about to say something.
Yeah.
I'll let you get what you want to say out.
So I just wanted to touch on even the women's division, because I'm a woman, I'm just a bit biased girl power and shit. But Triple H, I feel like he's moving in the right direction. From being in the 90s where it was bras and panties, I feel like it was going backwards and he's starting to move it forwards. He's still got sex sells, whatever. But I feel like it's going somewhere now. With that tag team, little championship he's got going, he's doing stuff with the women and I'm freaking loving it.
You and I both said, and hopefully I won't forget my point now, but you and I, it's fine. I do it to you every time you're on the podcast, my bad. But some of the teams we looked at and we're like, that's really fucking random. But at the same time, the
He's
dude's working with what he's got, right? Like Leah and Raquel, I don't feel like they should have necessarily been teamed because they are still both very green. But you can tell that they're both trying their hardest. And even with the couple of matches they've had, they've already starting to get into that groove. And you can tell that at the end of the day, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Raquel. I feel like she needs to tighten things up a bit more before she's pushed into the limelight the way that she has been. Again, nothing personal. I don't know the woman. She seems like a nice lady, but I just whatever. But seeing those two and just seeing the growth, and just mainly my point is just seeing how happy they are, and you can tell that they're enjoying themselves. And Triple H said this, I believe it was at the WWE recruitments that they did just before SummerSlam, where people asked him about, how do you feel Vince's shoes?
Yeah.
And he basically went on this really long-winded rant, only unlike my rants, it was captivating all the way through. And then at the end, he kind of chuckled, and he's like, long story short is, I can't feel Vince's shoes. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because he wants to do this. He's going to work with this person, this person, this person. All of us are going to stand in Vince's shoes, and they're still not going to be filled. But
you got to look at it too, right? So you look at it, what Vince did. He created this massive platform. He created wrestling entertainment, right?
Yes.
Pretty much, like essentially. He got the company from his father, went and did what he did.
Yep.
Triple H is just going to go better and do the same thing.
Well, everyone says Vince killed the territories. Now, Vince McMahon, a very controversial person, things that I'm not going to talk about on this podcast because, frankly, it makes me sick. But if Vince McMahon hadn't have bought out the territories, in a lot of aspects, professional wrestling probably would have died.
Yeah.
And that fucking kills me to think about because you know me before I knew you, and even with you, and I've turned you into a supermark now, like, I don't know where my life would be if professional wrestling was a thing. Like, take me being a wrestler, commentator, fucking even a podcaster, whatever, out of the equation. Yeah. At the end of the day, just being a fan of professional wrestling and being so passionate and driven and determined, like, to think that if you lived in some alternate dimension where Vince hadn't have gone and
what would he be like?
Poached Hulk Hogan and poached this person and that person. There's a lot of big names, but because I'm on a rant, I can't think off the top of my head. Where he's just basically he went to all the territories and he went, oh, so that's your guy? Cool. So everyone that was the guy was now just a guy, but they were in the platform, right? And obviously NWA and WCW merged, and that went to the Monday Night Wars that I just budged on, and then it changed all over and over and over again. But like, if Vince hadn't have done that, where does it go? But it's very much like Triple H.
It's an evolution. It's the evolution of wrestling.
Evolution is a mystery.
I mean, it's Triple H.
But like, even Triple H said that, like, no one's going to feel Vince's shoes, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you guys have a chance, just go look at, like, the WWE recruit videos on YouTube. They're in their own single snippets, and they're on the Instagram as well, although it's probably harder to find Instagram. But Big E, I just burped into the microphone, my apologies, I'm not even going to edit that out. Big E was talking about, because obviously he's got a broken neck, and I fucking hope he can come back, but if not, at least he did win the big one, despite how the run was. But Big E was there, and he was helping the guys with their charisma and blah, blah, blah. Because Big E, let's face it, he seems like a humble dude, but you get him going, he's entertaining as all fuck. Yeah. But Big E was there, Triple H was there, and then basically, talked about Vince and this. And then he said, but his main focus amongst anything, and he was saying this to the people that were there at the tryouts, right? He's like, I'm saying this to you because you're at the moment at the bottom. That's not a bad thing, that's fine, but you're the bottom of the barrel. You're not even part of the company. You're here, you're having a tryout. And he's like, it goes to everyone on the indies. He's like, whether you're in front of, I don't know the actual number, but he basically said the same old wrestler adage, brother, if you're in front of 1,200, 12,000 people, doesn't matter. You go out there, you give it every damn thing you have, you treat it as seriously as you possibly can, but you still need to do that all while managing to have a good time, while having fun.
You're going to love doing it. Yeah.
And that is what I'm loving right now from WWE compared to AEW. And again, rumor, speculation, whatever. I'm not going to sit here and be like, CM Punk is the reason, because CM Punk put a lot of fucking eyes on them last year, and that's a fact. It's not Roman Reigns type vibes, which makes the hardcore internet fans mad because, ooh, he's boring. But if you want to look at the actual ratings, look at when Roman segments are on, they're always the highest rated segments of the show. But that's neither here nor there, right? You've got all this stuff. Everyone, a lot of the AW originals, dare you call it that for a company that's only, 3-4 years old now, but a lot of the AW originals, you can tell even in their work, they're not miserable per se, but they're not having as much fun as they first were. Maybe it's because it's harder than they originally thought, right? Being on TV, doing this, that, or whatever. Like, I'd shudder the thing. Like, I can go sit in front of a crowd and people probably find it weird because I sit on this podcast and I stutter and I get all fucking all over the place and I'm like, what was I saying? And I lose my thoughts, but then I'm standing in front of a crowd and you want me to cut a promo? Fucking sure. Boom, there's your promo. Everyone's either cheering, booing. That's one thing I've pat myself on the back. One thing I've been proud about is I've always got 100% success rate of, depending on what the promoter wants from me, I've always gotten that reaction. But the best part is I've always had fun. But I shudder to think, right, if I was on national television or even just television, like knowing that my matches are going out on YouTube, right, or that there's going to be X amount of people and they're going to film it and they're going to show their friends, there's still like so much more pressure there. Like, I feel like, but it's weird at the same time because a bigger crowd is easier to work for me than a smaller crowd because a smaller crowd is more into it. But it's give and take, right? Like with the cameras and stuff. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm like, you look at the AW originals, right, and they look like they've fallen off the wagon in a way. Like the TV show is still great. I'm still watching the highlights and everyone's doing great. But like, look at them compared to just about everyone on WWE TV. And granted, they've just had this big momentum shift, and obviously, maybe it's a honeymoon phase. Maybe it'll wear off, and in 2 years' time, we'll be talking about how Triple H killed sports entertainment. But like, everyone is just having such a good time.
Yeah,
and it's just refreshing to see.
It seems like the morale has just changed. I don't know. Like, I'm not shitting on Vince or anything, but it just feels like the morale's changed. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
the morale from when Vince was there is 100 times better. And then that's what I'm saying. Like, I know, like, I always say, like what you like. Like, don't sit there and be like, fuck WWE, watch AW, fuck AW, watch WWE. Support what you like at the end of the day, because put your energy into something positive rather than something negative. But look at the kind of the comparisons, the parallels. Yeah. That's the one. It's the parallels are polarizing when you kind of look at some of the AEW talent now compared to WWE, and people have actually gone on record. Like Bobby Fish did an interview where he literally said, pretty much made it known that if Triple H was still in charge, he wouldn't have left. And a lot of people have actually, even Swerve did. And he's like, he loves AEW, blah, blah, blah. But if Triple H had been in charge, because obviously he was released due to the budget cuts, but he's even said that he feels he would have still been there. And he's just brought back Hit Row. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
See, and what I think about Triple H taking over and stuff as well is it's just, you look at it like he's been there, he's done that, he's wrestled for multiple companies. He knows what it's like to be in the business, like, firsthand. Like, Vince is controlling it all, but he was never a wrestler before that. Like, he did his little bits,
he did
but
his spots, brother, but
he was in charge. Where Triple H, he's started from the bottom and worked his way up. Like, yes, he did marry Steph and whatever else and stepped on people to get there. But you look at it.
Which I love, because he's like, he's like, I've done dastardly things, but I spat right in your face and did it. And it's like, oh, well, that's true, because CM Punk can be a cowardly little shit.
But that's what I mean. Like, like, he's been there, so he knows what it's like.
It's cutthroat.
It's cutthroat. He knows what it's like, and I feel like that's why the morale's boosted with him, because he's been there, he's done that, he's been treated like shit. He knows all of that, right? So it's kind of like he's been there, done that. So it's kind of like, it's just he's got that good work-life balance for them. Like, yes, they're still going to be on the road bloody every friggin' day, whatevs. But you know what I mean? It's more the fact that he's trying to make a fun environment while having it serious at the same time. Like, he's boss man, but he's not boss man. Like, that's what I'm getting vibes on.
And that's what I love, because I've said to, I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of guys that I know who they're happy doing it as a hobby.
Yeah.
That's completely fine. Like, obviously at one point I had bigger aspirations, but the reality was it's still a hobby, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still a hobby. As much as I don't like to admit it is, it's still a hobby at that point, and it's probably always just going to be a hobby now. That's fine. But it's like, if you only want to wrestle once a month or twice a month or here or there, whatever. Like, if you take as many bookings as you can within a certain radius, that's fine. But you don't want to be a superstar and you're happy.
Yeah.
That's cool. But when you are there, when it comes to your character, promos, whatever, you take it seriously. You believe in it. You give it the respect it deserves, because at the end of the day, it is still a business.
Yeah, well, I've seen a Tough Enough clip, right?
Yes, the one you sent me where the dude's nut falls out. So.
But Triple H also said into it, you're going to be on the road pretty much nearly 365 days a year, close to that, like 266 or something like that.
I'm honestly shocked that, obviously, I keep saying to you that I want to rewatch all the Tough Enough series because they're all on the network, and I've rewatched them twice by myself, and I've seen them all up probably about 3 times because I remember watching them kind of online when they were first airing, and then I've gone back and watched them a couple of times because I watched it with Hellfire or Big James, whatever you want to call him now. I watched it with him, and then a couple of years later I watched it again by myself. But that specific clip, I'm very shocked that you'd never seen before, regardless of me not showing you Top It Off, because that specific clip there, with the funny bit aside with the dude's nutsack falling out of his shorts, but that speech that he gives them, and I don't think that clip even showed the full extent of that clip either, but he gives them this big lecture, and that is people that, like, wrestling trainer Al Snow, right?
Yep.
Dr. Tom Pritchard, who of course trains along with Glenn Jacobs, known as Kane, Sin Bodhi, Gangrel, Rikishi, the Dudleys. I could sit here and I could name fucking every wrestling, Lance Storm, right? Every decent or every great wrestling trainer in the fuking world has hammered that clip over and over and over. That one clip, and that's what I said. It was just one of those things where I hadn't seen it for a while. I didn't even open the video, and I saw the thumbnail, and I was like, "Oh." I was actually kind of sad because it was more the bottom half of it where it's the funny bit where, oh, you're not saying that, but he cuts. Well, he doesn't cut a promo, but that's almost what it becomes because. And it's like when I go on rants on these podcasts, like I know sometimes I can sit here and be like, well, there's this, and this, and then I get excited like just before, and I start talking a mile a fucking minute, and it almost becomes a promo because it's like, here's this and this and this, but he hits every single thing.
That's it.
But you can tell that he says it out of love as well.
Yeah, he's passionate and he loves the business. You can see that.
There's an old expression, right? And we're both 2000s emos kids, and it sounds really bad, but like, love is pain, right?
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to professional wrestling, there's that you have to sacrifice.
That's what I mean. Like, you can love wrestling, but then you have to have the passion for it because you've got to live and breathe it every day. You've got to train. You've got to like put your body on the line. You've got to do all that, and that's what I mean. Like, it can be a hobby and you can have fun, and that's great. But if you
still need to keep yourself in ring shape enough so you don't, one, hurt yourself or your opponent,
but
two, make the people believe.
But if you want to do it professionally, you've got to live and breathe it. It's got to be every day for you. And it's kind of like, it's a demanding thing. And that's what he was putting out there. And it was just like, it was really kind of inspiring to kind of see, because like, I already knew a lot of this stuff, and they've mentioned it in other like documentaries we've watched about like how demanding it is. But he put it into a real world aspect for these guys trying to like train and trying out and everything. I'm just a mark. I watch copious amounts of professional wrestling, and since being off work, I've fucking upped that even more. I didn't think it was possible, but I've had people that are on the small circuits be like, "Oh, I don't even watch professional wrestling." Ha ha ha. And I'm like, I'm not saying you have to watch wrestling, but again, as you said, like if your brain isn't switched onto it, then your heart isn't in it. Why are you doing it? And your performance is not going to.
Why? Like, even people like Kevin Nash, right, who gets slack for, he's like, I got into the business because I needed money because I was a big dude. If it's not just a matter of being a big dude, bro, right? Like, he was Kevin Nash the most technical wrestler of all time? Fuck no. But you cannot put you on the mat. Like, I've got a pretty high pain threshold myself. But you cannot put yourself through that much pain and agony. And I struggle I struggle just traveling from here, and I'm 5'9.5". That dude is 6'10".
Yeah.
Right? all around the world, 7 nights a fucking week at times back in those days. Every night.
Could you imagine just doing a job and just not loving it? Like, could you imagine going to work every day and just like, it's the paycheck? Like, I know a lot of people do it, but look at it when you're doing like nearly every hour of the day, you're investing in this just for money.
Yeah. Like my shoot job, which I'm not able to do at the moment because of injury, like at times it can be taxing. I'm a cleaner. I see some fucking disgusting stuff. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I fucking,
come home and you got to escape.
At the end of the day, like, but even while I'm working though, yeah. I'll pump my tunes and I'll be like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna scrub this until it's fucking shiny, right? Like, fucking let's go, right? It's if you want to be in that ring, you polish the shit out of everything that you possibly can, and then it shines through, right?
Yeah.
Pun not intended, because I was using the scrubbing method, but that kind of just naturally transition segued into it. But just polish it, live it, breathe it. Like we're literally just giving life advice here. Like Mrs. Crossfire has never wrestled a match in her life, but I guarantee you she has a lot more passion than quite a lot of people you see online. This person's buried and this person needs a push. Shut the fuck up.
It's not like a training game, if you was fit enough and your body wasn't broken, probably would wrestle.
But it's refreshing. Like we've literally been talking for almost an hour. Like I was worried that, hey, we'll talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then we'll come back, and we probably will still come back later on and talk about the movie after we go and watch it. But yeah.
It's my ADHD.
Yeah.
Hyperfixation. This coffee's hit me hard.
Is that mine or yours?
That's your one. That's the pumpkin spice latte, but you can have some more of mine because I'm getting into it. I don't remember what size I got.
It's a big ass coffee, I'll say that.
I think I got the largest size. I think it's Venti. Venti, I think, has 3 shots. So we're drinking about 6 shots. So I'm gonna just be chatting all fucking day.
Yeah, I don't work at Starbucks. Yeah, I'm not into the Starbucks lingo, so I don't know what the fuck any of these letters mean.
Yeah, it's just Venti. It's Venti.
It's like the fuck they're like writing in Morse code, like they're like casting a fucking spell on me. I'm trying to sound out SK, XH, PS. Does that say PS2?
Oh, XH.
PSC.
Extra shot.
Oh, pumpkin spice and L. PSL. Pissing myself laughing. Pumpkin spice latte. Duh. I'm just going to leave all of this in because we're both ADHDs, but it's so refreshing.
But that's how you know you're going to get a good podcast out of things. You just pump fucking caffeine in the old pump.
I know that someone like Samuel, he's going to listen to this and he's just going to throw it because he's like, because he's also, I apologize to him because I trip and stutter all over my words, and he's like, no, like.
Also, Samuel, you're a legend because you go for Broncos. Just saying.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing was, we were going to talk about. We literally said we're going to talk about Triple H. Talk about what I'll go back to before we started ranting. Literally 15 minutes ago. After Raw went off the air, Edge did state in a promo that next year in Toronto, he does want to officially retire on his own terms. You look at, with Triple H in charge, Edge has specifically requested a couple of people. He said he wants Brock Lesnar, which fucking terrifies me given his neck injury, but hey, look, he did it with Daniel Bryan. Match turned out fantastic. He wants Finn Balor. They're currently building to that now. Yep. Priest wasn't like one of his dream ones, but he wanted to work with him and help with him. He's done that. He wants John Cena again, which I feel at this point would be amazing, especially in like yeah, you could have Edge turn heel, blah, blah, but just give him that face versus face dynamic where it's nothing but respect, similar to what Triple H and Orton and Triple H and Cena did in Triple H last couple of matches, and just battle for respect, battle for, in some ways nostalgia, but whatever. He wants Sami Zayn. He wants Kevin Owens. All I'm saying is, and maybe this is me being a mark, like everyone's saying that John Cena should be Edge's last match, or, Randy Orton should be Edge's last match. All I'm saying is, have a feud with KO next year. He can go through Sami on the path to KO. Kevin Owens retires Edge in Toronto.
I don't know where his contract is, but please bring Christian back for fuck's sake. Could you imagine? Fuck.
Edge. People have been saying that online. Edge and Christian versus KO and Sami. The old school 90s Edge and Christian 5-second pose promos. shit. Because, like, as I said, though, like, Kevin Owens, he's kind of the face now with the prize fighter gimmick, but he's very much a tweener. He's an anti-hero. He's like Stone Cold, right? He's going to stun anyone and everyone within arm's length. So you could literally do Edge and Christian as faces, and you could still even have KO and Sammy as faces, if not tweeners, right? But almost like the me and Hellfire dynamic, if I can use that thing, right? Where I was at this weird stage, especially now because I'm injured, right? In Counter, I was John the Ref, and then I was special referee John Crossfire at the end of the night, and then I was manager John Crossfire, all in the same show. And I'm like, how the fuck do I blend all of this? And I basically Hellfire, Big James. He was meant to be the heel. He ended up being a face by the end of it, just because they reacted, so we went with it. But we were almost doing like the KO Sammy dynamic, but it was reversed, where KO could be a face and Sammy's just the heel running around. Like, the perfect way to describe it, and people have actually made memes out of this, is when Nelson Muntz on The Simpsons is walking down the street, and Martin, is it Martin? Martin, basically Nelson's trying to turn over a new leaf, or he's just basically fed up with something, and he's whatever. I think actually, is that when he's on medication or something? I don't know, but he's basically just walking down the street, and Martin's running around him going, hi Nelson, trying to get like a rise out of him.
Yeah, because I think Nelson has like a comb over or something, doesn't he? From memory?
Possibly.
I don't know.
Is that when he's like in love with Lisa? I don't know if that's the same storyline or what. Again, there's so many episodes of The Simpsons that are playing sick of it, like wrestling, but it's like that, right?
Nick Meltino, radio in.
Please. Let's give him a call and be like, hi, you're on the podcast. What episode is this? Maybe even call Joel Bateman. Please help me. I need help with The Simpsons reference. Haven't spoke to you in a couple of months, but Simpsons reference, please. But no, like, people were making that when KO and Sammy were doing the them versus Shane thing where they were both heels, and KO was so serious and he was doing the prize fighter thing to an extent, right? And Sammy was running around him, and people made those like memes back then. But you could almost do that where KO's a babyface / tweener. And then you have Sammy's basically the foil of everyone, including his own partner's jokes, right? Like Edge and Christian, Sammy and KO. Again, with this fantasy booking here, it's odds of this happening are, very tiny. I mean, if it does happen, bet your house on it. But like,
yeah,
it just, I don't even know where I was going to go now, because I was going to bring up Edge retiring and how both of us are kind of, we're not going to be ready for that.
no,
Not going to be ready for that. But then we ranted about passion for the business, and then just I've lost it. But
I only brought up footy.
But who do you think, out of the guys I listed, right? You got Finn, Sammy, KO, Lesnar, Cena. Who of them do you think will be his final opponent, and who do you want? Because I'm torn, because the whole John Cena thing, if it's for respect, even if you know Edge is losing going, it's like WrestleMania 24 with Shawn Michaels, right? Again, controversial, even though he's been glorified randomly all of a sudden, Ric Flair. Everyone knew Ric Flair was losing that match.
Yeah.
He went into the Hall of Fame the night before. He knew he was retiring, but it was the story. It works every fucking time. You could almost have, after all the long rivalries that they've had, and the slapping Cena's dad and throwing Edge in the lake and this and that,
It's just a nice.
it could almost be a "I'm sorry, I love you" moment.
It's a nice little fucking bow tie on his career. Like, it's just all.
And then again, this is me just being as I said with
It's
Gargano.
nostalgia too.
As I said with Gargano, this is me just being a mark because I'm a fan of guy. But I look at what KO's done. He worked Austin. It doesn't get bigger than that. But how do you keep momentum? Have him retire a fucking Canadian national treasure in Canada.
I can see
Like,
that. Yes.
I could imagine like NWO level heat where he's being pelted with garbage by his own countrymen. And Canadians are meant to be super nice people, but it's like, you retired Edge, fuck you. And then at the end,
our golden boy.
and then at the imagine if it's almost like a John Cena ECW One Night Stand 06 thing, where at the start of the match it's like, fuck you, we love you, but we don't actually, we hate you, but not really. It's a weird paradox where we want to cheer you, but it's it's Edge, right?
Yeah.
But then at the end it's okay, they can hug it out just for that split second, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
KO, you'll never be Edge, but I love you. But KO,
The moral of the story was we're just on an hour, or just about to be an hour in. Edge hit a fucking Canadian destroyer, and as I said, I don't think anyone in 2006 thought that in 2022 Edge would have a life-threatening injury, come back and bust out a Canadian destroyer with Petey Williams as a backstage agent, but mind you, so I'm assuming he probably had some sort of hand in that. And again, would that have happened with Vince in charge? Probably not, because pile drivers are meant to be banned. Like, Canadians have been kind of here and there. There's the people have used them on NXT and stuff like that. And on the main roster, Bad Bunny did one to Mania, but it's mainly been like Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio did it, but it's more of a Spike Rana style that he does it. He just does it with the sunset motion. But yeah, I don't know. Like, have we made a point? We've been talking for an hour.
I don't know if we've been like, I feel like it's super chaotic and we've been everywhere, but
you know what? Me and Mrs. Crossfire and I.
So this is the shit. So here we are.
We've got the Broncos-Eels game tonight. It's round 24, kicking off round 24. We've only got one round left next week before finals. Going to get some adult beverages. Hopefully we don't get kicked out of the hotel for being too loud in room 609. And I can say that because it's not going to go out until we're home, so it's fine. One number away. Damn it. I'm just going to point out that was Mrs. Crossfire's joke, by the way, if you're looking at this episode when it comes out and it says room 609. She said apartment 609, but I changed it to room.
Yeah, because it was like no.
I was going to be like, I was going to do like only wrestles in the building, but room 609 will work.
609.
I mean, in saying that, I could.
It should be 609.
I mean, I could always fucking split this up realistically and then just re-edit in an intro and an outro, but. We're going to come back in... You know what? Fuck it. We're going to come back in a couple of hours, and I'm going to make that episode 66 as well. Just to be a dick. I'm going to get 2 episodes out of this because we're literally at an hour. So in a couple of hours, we're going to come back after seeing the Black Phone. We're going to talk about that probably. I'll probably put a spoiler alert on that because we're going to talk about it fresh and... Because I've had mixed reviews, but it looks really good. But
yeah.
I feel like...
From work, so like, you know... it's not as scary as they expected, but...
Like, look, the movie's in 2 hours as we record this, so if I wrap this up, we go to the chemist, get my eye medication, yada, yada, yada. I feel like we've actually... In some weird way, this has been a very productive episode.
Yes and no.
But yeah, the bottom line is, Edge hit a Canadian destroyer, me and Mrs. Crossfire are marking out because Gargano's back, morale is up, make sure you actually take fucking pride in what you're doing. Bloody blah blah.
Yeah. Hotel room rant.
And I'm gonna steal some more of it.
Oh yeah. I think it's good too. It's like
I can't tell which one I like more out of that pumpkin spice latte and the caramel macchiato. I think I like the pumpkin spice just because it's got that little hint of cinnamon because I'm a fancy bitch.
spicy spice.
Caught in the cinnamon. I don't know. But you know what? Fuck it. We're going to get 2 episodes out of this. So I'm going to wrap this one up. The song of the week was Words That Don't Exist by Citizen Soldier. Again, as I said, there is a trigger warning on that one. The match of the week for this week, and now I'm going to have to find another match of the week for what will be the episode. We're recording this all in one day, but you're going to have to wait another week to hear the end of the conclusion. Dun, dun, dun. But the match of the week was Edge versus Damian Priest from Raw this week, which was August 22nd, 2022. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. With me was Mrs. Crossfire. Did you have anything you want to quickly add before I hit record? Before I hit stop?
No, because I think I'll keep going because I'm buzzed. I'm buzzed as fuck.
They always say, like, you know, ADHD people shouldn't marry each other, but
in this sense,
that's fine.
I mean, we're the same.
I am the essential John L. Crossfire. With me is the always lovely, stunning, beautiful, gorgeous, amazing Mrs. Crossfire. You guys were just caught
in conversation.